I've been kind of thinking about how to go through Job, at what pace, and what all of that. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to spend some time on each week, go through an entire cycle of this poetry and kind of get into it. We'll listen to it being read like we did last week. You folks on Zoom after this week, kind of let me know how that works for you, because I'm trying to figure out what works in the room and what doesn't work, because it's a lot of reading, and I think it's better than any one of us just reading it. So we'll go through, and so what we're going to do is, last week we looked at these heavenly courts, and the book drags us into it thinking that it's going to provide an answer to why does suffering happen, right? And I think the book is being tricky with us, that it's not so concerned with that. I was actually reading someone else's study about it. I have it over here. And his thing is that it's not about why suffering happens, but it's about how the righteous can suffer well, which I was like, oh, that's kind of an interesting way. I'm not entirely sure I agree with that. I have a much
not easy to do that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure I agree with that. I have kind of a more cynical reading of it, I think. I think this whole book is about forgiveness and how to and what to do when friends treat you bad. Like that's so that's kind of my read of it. And the one thing I want to point out is, when I grew up, so many people made such a big deal out of like those heavenly court scenes, like this is what's going on with God and Satan and all that stuff. And those scenes are never brought up again. I think it's just a ruse to get us into the story and begin for us to ask questions, because I think it's meant to make us feel like, what? That's weird. Like what? And make us feel uncomfortable. You know, and so make us feel uncomfortable at what's going on, and kind of gets us into the suffering aspect of the story. Because remember, this is good literature, and good literature isn't just like no one would read the encyclopedia, for good literature, like that's all you want is information. And the problem is that we oftentimes treat this like it's an encyclopedia. It's like, this is how I'm supposed to feel about God. This is how I'm supposed to feel about myself. And it's if it was an encyclopedia, we wouldn't be reading it anymore. Like it's so much more interesting than that. And that's when the Bible really started coming alive for me, is when I started realizing it's like, oh, this I used to say this because it would bother people, and that's why I used to say it. But it's because especially where it used to be, people were just enamored with like, well, it's got to be literally true, literally true. And I would go, well, I don't know if it's so much literally, but literarily true. Like it's literature. Yeah. And that would really upset people. But that's kind of, I think that sense kind of helps us get in here. So what I want us to do here, we're going to read chapters 4 through 14 today, hopefully. All right. Which it shouldn't be too bad. The chapters are not long, and the reader is quick. But what we're going to do first is we're going to look at the first friend and what he says to Job. So this is chapter 4 through, I think it's 6. Yeah. And so, 4 through 7. 4 through 7. So Eliphaz. Yeah. And what I have here is, this is one of my favorite books. This is the Jewish Study Bible. And the Jewish Study Bible is, if you went to a synagogue somewhere, this is what they're using. So it has
Now, is that the Old Testament, New Testament?
No, this is just old. This is just old.
It's Bible. I wonder what they.
Right? No.
There's no New Testament in it. It's even out of order from what our normal Bible is. So I have the Hebrew Bible that's written in Hebrew. It's the same text as that. So like it's in the same order as that. It's when the Reformers, namely Luther, was putting together the Bible as we kind of know it today, he was moving things around and kind of put some things in a different order than how the Jewish scribes were putting them together. So like Job is farther into the writings than the others and all that. But I was sitting there looking at their notes, and I thought their notes were really, really interesting. And so I think their notes will be helpful to us. And so Eliphaz, this is his first thing. And I'll read the note before we read Eliphaz, kind of help you kind of see what to look for. All right. So Eliphaz, probably the eldest companion, is provoked to speak. The case of Job rattles the traditional belief in just retribution, and Eliphaz cannot grapple with the profundity of Job's suffering. He does not yet accuse Job of having sinned. That'll come in the future, but he cautions him against losing a grip on his faith. He suggests two possible causes for Job's suffering. I thought this was what was good. Number one, it is part of life and must be patiently endured. In the end, the righteous will find blessing and the wicked will deteriorate. Okay? And number two, God may discipline people with a measure of affliction to remind them of what is in store for those who transgress. So as we read Eliphaz, and then we'll go right into Job after that. Look for those things Eliphaz is saying, and then also look for and see what Job's rebuttals are, and we'll talk about it. All right, does that sound good to everybody? All right, here we go. Here we go. Speak up if you can't hear it for whatever reason.
Then Eliphaz the Temanite answered,
If one attempts a word with you, will you become weary? But who can withhold himself from speaking? Surely you have instructed many, and you have strengthened weak hands. Your words have upheld him who was stumbling, and you have strengthened the feeble knees. Now it comes upon you, and you are weary. It touches you, and you are troubled. Is not your reverence, your confidence, and the integrity of your ways your hope? Remember now, whoever perished being innocent, or where the ever cut off.
You're getting an echo?
As I have.
Yes.
Must be picking up on this.
All right. I think I know what's happening. Yeah, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
All right, let's try this now. Tell me if the echo is still there.
Remember now, whoever perished being innocent,
No echo.
or where were the upright ever cut off?
What'd you say?
No
I didn't hear the
echo.
echo that time.
You couldn't? It was gone?
It's gone.
Okay, cool. Good. All right, we'll keep on doing that then. Do I still sound good?
Yep, you always sound good.
Oh, see, that's the kind of people we allow in this.
Almost always.
Almost always.
Unnecessary.
I know. All right, here we go.
Remember now, whoever perished being innocent, or where were the upright ever cut off? Even as I have seen, those who plow iniquity and sow trouble reap the same. By the blast of God they perish, and by the breath of his anger they are consumed. The roaring of the lion The voice of the fierce lion and the teeth of the young lions are broken. The old lion perishes for lack of prey, and the cubs of the lioness are scattered. Now, a word was secretly brought to me, and my ear received a whisper of it. In disquieting thoughts from the visions of the night, when deep sleep falls on men, fear came upon me, and trembling, which made all my bones shake. Then a spirit passed before my face. The hair on my body stood up. It stood still, but I could not discern its appearance. A form was before my eyes. There was silence. Then I heard a voice saying, "Can a mortal be more righteous than God? Can a man be more pure than his Maker? If he puts no trust in his servants, if he charges his angels with error, how much more those who dwell in houses of clay, whose foundation is in the dust, who are crushed before a moth? They are broken in pieces from morning till evening. They perish forever with no one regarding. Does not their own excellence go away? They die even without wisdom. Call out now. Is there anyone who will answer you? And to which of the holy ones will you turn? For wrath kills a foolish man, and envy slays a simple one. I have seen the foolish taking root, but suddenly I cursed his dwelling place. His sons are far from safety. They are crushed in the gate, and there is no deliverer. Because the hungry eat up his harvest, taking it even from the thorns, and a snare snatches their substance. For affliction does not come from the dust, nor does trouble spring from the ground. Yet man is born to trouble, as the sparks fly upward. But as for me, I would seek God, and to God I would commit my cause, who does great things and unsearchable, marvelous things without number. He gives rain on the earth and sends waters on the fields. He sets on high those who are lowly, and those who mourn are lifted to safety. He frustrates the devices of the crafty, so that their hands cannot carry out their plans. He catches the wise in their own craftiness, and the counsel of the cunning comes quickly upon them. They meet with darkness in the daytime, and grope at noontime as in the night. But he saves the needy from the sword, from the mouth of the mighty, and from their hand. So the poor have hope, and injustice shuts her mouth. Behold, happy is the man whom God corrects. Therefore do not despise the chastening of the Almighty. For he bruises, but he binds up. He wounds, but his hands make whole. He shall deliver you in 6 troubles. Yes, in 7 no evil shall touch you. In famine he shall redeem you from death, and in war from the power of the sword. You shall be hidden from the scourge of the tongue, and you shall not be afraid of destruction when it comes. You shall laugh at destruction and famine, and you shall not be afraid of the beasts of the earth. For you shall have a covenant with the stones of the field, and the beasts of the field shall be at peace with you. You shall know that your tent is in peace. You shall visit your dwelling and find nothing amiss. You shall also know that your descendants shall be many, and your offspring like the grass of the earth. You shall come to the grave at a full age, as a sheaf of grain ripens in its season. Behold, this we have searched out. It is true. Hear it and know for yourself.
Then Job answered,
Oh, that my grief were fully weighed, and my calamity laid with it on the scales. For then it would be heavier than the sand of the sea. Therefore my words have been rash, for the arrows of the Almighty are within me. My spirit drinks in their poison. The terrors of God are arrayed against me. Does the wild donkey bray when it has grass, or does the ox low over its fodder? Can flavorless food be eaten without salt? Or is there any taste in the white of an egg? My soul refuses to touch them. They are as loathsome food to me. Oh, that I might have my request, that God would grant me the thing that I long for, that it would please God to crush me, that he would loose his hand and cut me off. Then I would still have comfort, though in anguish I would exult. He will not spare, for I have not concealed the words of the Holy One. What strength do I have that I should hope? And what is my end that I should prolong my life? Is my strength the strength of stones? Or is my flesh bronze? Is my help not within me? And is success driven from me? To him who is afflicted, kindness should be shown by his friend, even though he forsakes the fear of the Almighty. My brothers have dealt deceitfully like a brook, like the streams of the brooks that pass away, which are dark because of the ice, and into which the snow vanishes. When it is warm, they cease to flow. When it is hot, they vanish from their place. The paths of their way turn aside. They go nowhere and perish. The caverns of Tema, look, the travelers of Sheba, hope for them. They are disappointed because they were confident. They come there and are confused. For now you are nothing. You see terror and are afraid. Did I ever say, bring something to me? Or offer a bribe for me from your wealth? Or deliver me from the enemy's hand? Or redeem me from the hand of oppressors? Teach me, and I will hold my tongue. Cause me to understand wherein I have erred. How forceful are right words. But what does your arguing prove? Do you intend to rebuke my words? And the speeches of a desperate one, which are as wind? Yes, you overwhelm the fatherless and you undermine your friend. Now, therefore, be pleased to look at me, where I would never lie to your face. Yield now. Let there be no injustice. Yes, concede. My righteousness still stands. Is there injustice on my tongue? Cannot my taste discern the unsavory? Is there not a time of hard service for man on earth? Are not his days also like the days of a hired man? Like a servant who earnestly desires the shade, and like a hired man who eagerly looks for his wages, so I have been allotted months of futility, and wearisome nights have been appointed to me. When I lie down, I say, when shall I arise, and the night be ended? For I've had my fill of tossing till dawn. My flesh is caked with worms and dust. My skin is cracked and breaks out afresh. My days are swifter than a weaver's shuttle, and are spent without hope. Oh, remember that my life is a breath. My eye will never again see good. The eye of him who sees me will see me no more. While your eyes are upon me, I shall no longer be. As the cloud disappears and vanishes, so he who goes down to the grave does not come up. He shall never return to his house, nor shall his place know him any more. Therefore I will not restrain my mouth. I will speak in the anguish of my spirit. I will complain in the bitterness of my soul. Am I a sea or a sea serpent that you set a guard over me? When I say my bed will comfort me, my couch will ease my complaint, then you scare me with dreams and terrify me with visions, so that my soul chooses strangling and death rather than my body. I loathe my life. I would not live forever. Let me alone, for my days are but a breath. What is man, that you should exalt him, that you should set your heart on him, that you should visit him every morning and test him every moment? How long? Would you not look away from me and let me alone till I swallow my saliva? Have I sinned? What have I done to you, O watcher of men? Why have you set me as your target so that I am a burden to myself? Why then do you not pardon my transgression and take away my iniquity? But now I will lie down in the dust, and you will seek me diligently, but I will no longer be.
Okay. All right. Well, we're back. So, and everyone can hear me all right? That's all right. Good. So, all right. So let's first talk about Eliphaz's speech to Job. What stood out to you in that? I mean, this is all poetry and all of that. What kind of stood out, and what do you think his overall kind of message is to Job? Do you have any ideas?
I got I don't know if you would call it a wake up thought or what, in chapter 6, verse 4, where it says, "The terrors of God are arrayed against me."
Yeah, that's in Job's. Yeah,
That,
here, remember that from when we talked about Job's. So let's stay in Eliphaz's right now.
oh, okay.
So like that's so
chapter
4 and 5. So chapter 4. One thing, as you guys are looking at it, one thing that kind of stood out to me is Eliphaz starts speaking that he's had a vision, like all that stuff, which this book is clever. Like, because there's something that people will do a lot, and they do it as kind of a power move. And I think this is what Eliphaz is doing. And I think the author of Job here is kind of showing this, is that like, oh, God spoke to me
in my head
and told me to do this, or told us that we should do all this. This doesn't exist in LCMS churches as much, but in other sects, it happens a lot. We probably squelch the Holy Spirit a little bit too much in our denomination. Some people get free reign enough to where they call themselves the Holy Spirit sometimes.
Wow.
like and that's, but like, I think Eliphaz.
I talk to God all the time.
Yeah.
He talks back.
Yeah, and I think that can definitely happen. And but think about what Eliphaz is saying in chapter 4, verse 16. He says, "I stood still, but I could not discern its appearance. A form was before my eyes. There was silence." Right? Then I heard a voice saying, "Can a mortal be more righteous than God? Can a man be pure as the Maker?" Which is true.
Is he implying that's what Job is doing?
Well, I think that's what he's implying. Yeah. Like I think he's that he's like, what do you mean that you haven't done anything wrong?
Yeah.
Like because remember what Job is saying in chapter 3. Like he's like, I'm not guilty for any of this, and we know he's not because the author at the beginning tells us. There's some suspect things, how he's hedging with his kids and all that stuff. There's some stuff that's weird, but we can't overlook the fact that they're like, he hasn't done anything wrong, right? Like that's, and I think that's, and so it's bringing us in his questions. But if we keep looking at what he said here, he puts no trust in his servants. If he is in charge of angels with error, let's see, like it's just this kind of sense of like, how dare you question God? Which is, it's like, and he's telling this to Job. The guy who's not suffering is telling the guy who's suffering, how dare you question God? Just get over it.
do you think he feels like he's next in line when they realize Job is not to continue on as being the best one?
I don't know.
I think a little of it might be jealousy.
Yeah, jealousy.
Yeah, definitely. I saw it in the beginning. He's telling Job how you're so upstanding and you've been so strong in your religion and you've helped people who have feeble knees and you're wonderful. And then he goes on to say, but if God's doing a job on you, you must deserve it. So maybe you're not the hotsy totsy. You know, it's like, oh, you're the church elder?
And look, and so you can see what he's saying here, that he's definitely equating, like, God just doesn't do this to people just to good people, like that's, where I saw that was chapter 5, verse 6, when he says, for affliction does not come from just the dust of the ground, nor does trouble spring up from the ground. Like does trouble come from nowhere, Job? Like we all know that. And that's, man, that comes, that's probably like some of those first things that come into our own hearts. Like when stuff starts happening to us, it's like, what have I done? What have I done to upset the big guy upstairs? Yeah, exactly. So, and he continues on, let's see, like verse 10 and 11, he gives rain on the earth and sends water in the fields. He's saying, like, yeah, he does all this stuff. He sets on high those who are lowly, and those who mourn are lifted to safety. Like it's that going, he's probably quoting like a proverb in there. Yeah. And we have to remember, he's telling this to the guy who's suffering. that's, and he's not suffering yet.
In line 13, he says he catches the wise in their own craftiness. Mm-hmm. The schemes of the wily are brought to a quick end. Is he not implying that all this time Job has been playing the I'm so godly card, and now everybody can see it was false?
I think so. I think he's like, now he hasn't outright said that he's sinned. That'll come. Yeah. But that'll come. But I think we can start seeing the stones that we're turning to get there, though. What it mean, that whole section after what you just read, Lee, that whole section there reminds me of, like, because I'll play devil's advocate for Eliphaz real quick, because and you guys have heard me talk a lot about this. When people are suffering, you don't say things like, "Oh, God just needed another angel." Like that. That's like, you don't say stuff like that. That's what Eliphaz is saying here. He's like, and some of this is what he's saying is like, "Oh, God is good and just. Like God is making all things good. You just wait." Like I think we've all gone through a little bit of suffering, some of us more than others. And like when people say stuff that to you, your eyes just roll in the back of your head. It's completely unhelpful. It's why I like my token phrase when something is out, I'm like, that sucks. like that. That's like I'm sorry. Like I try really hard to never explain away stuff, because that's what he's doing. This whole thing is him explaining away the suffering. It's like you must have done something.
Do you think that Eliphaz is wearing a hat of, well, this is wise, see how wise I am in knowing this, as opposed to this should help you? Because I don't really think he's helping Job by what he's saying.
Absolutely. Well, I think it. I mean, again, it just reminds me of our first inclinations when we want to make something better, and we try to explain it away or something like that. Like that. That's playing devil's advocate for Eliphaz here. Yeah, I don't think he's being intentionally cruel. And I think that's the cleverness of this. But that's just that sense where we try to explain away what's going on. It's like A plus B equals C. That's how it is. So you're getting C. You must have done B, Joe. Like that. That's like over there. And like in verse 27, right before Job talks, you can see this. Behold, this we have searched out, and it's true. Hear it and know it for yourself. Like we know this is true. Here's something that I heard recently.
I like the end of it. It's for your good.
It's for your good. Yeah, like that. It's for your good. This is something, and this is kind of pointing it out here. There's a strong movement in the Christian church right now, is this sense of like, well, this is just what the Bible says, and this is what I believe in it, and all that stuff. And I've always kind of struggled with that, but I couldn't ever put it on. Well, I was listening to someone talk the other day, and they were talking about that, and they said they're not saying they're saying with their mouth that this is what the Bible says, and it's true, and it's what's one of the phrases that gets used around that it's always true, or something like that.
Infallible.
God. Yes. Perfect. Thank you. Like that. That's things are probably going bad in here right now. So like that's the infallible.
Wait till you get these.
Yeah. So
Piper talks like they're talking about when he does that thing on Christian radio about people call in and ask questions, and he tries to answer them, and he always refers back to the actual, this is what the Bible says, do not change it.
So the struggle with that is, and it's important to read the scriptures.
Reading Aramaic.
And still it's important to be reading the scriptures, see what's going on. But often what I hear now, because I heard this guy say this, I was like, oh, that's what's going on, is that what they're saying is that my reading of the Bible is infallible.
Right.
Like that's, and I was like, whoa, that's it right there. And like when you look at what Eliphaz says right there, that's what he's saying. We have searched it out. We know this is true, Joe. like hear it to know it yourself, right? Like
you want to start another church.
Yeah, it's almost like he's using. It's almost like this pride is coming out. And if you talk to people, that doesn't come from pride. It's they think that they're being faithful, by saying stuff like that. I'm sure that's what's going on with Eliphaz too. I don't know. Like so I like doing these character studies because I see myself in these people too. Like that's
always right.
Yeah. I'm always right. I could be wrong about it.
Trust.
Yeah. Trust.
This might sound strange, but I would love to hear what the Apostle Peter talked about Job.
Yeah.
I don't know why that comes to me, but somewhere in the background of my training or my catechism or somewhere or other, it's like, why would he take this?
Yeah. So then let's get into Job, and this is chapter 6 and 7. So this is Job's response to everything Eliphaz just said to him. And what did anything stand out there? Now, Cheryl, you had one here. Do you remember what that was?
I got to put my glasses on. Verse 4 at the end, it says, the terrors of God are arrayed against me.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of stuff right here that all has to deal with that. Like verse 2, I thought it was very interesting. He said, my calamity is laid with it on the scales. It's like, so that idea of like the scales of justice, and like this isn't right. And then verse 4, the beginning, what Cheryl was talking about, the arrows of the Almighty are in me. Like it's like, look, it's like the knife, your backstabbing ways have evidence, like that's, and he says the terrors of God are all around me. Like that's, he's basically like saying like, God, like you stabbed me in the back a bunch of times here. Like he's going into that. He walks right up to the line of cursing God, but he doesn't do it. It's very close. Yeah. So yeah.
In line 9, isn't he asking for death?
Yeah, I mean, he's been asking for this, and it's that first one. Yet that it would please God to crush me, that he would lose his hand and cut me off. Oh yeah, like that. Just go ahead and finish the job, dude.
Yeah.
Like the arrows are in me, like all that stuff. Just go ahead and do it. Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it.
This would be his consolation.
Yeah. Yeah.
It brings to mind the verse about if God can be for me, who can be against me?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's so we have that verse, but again, sometimes it's how we use things, because Eliphaz is using things we know, but he's using them in ways, like all of that. And Job is basically looking at him and going, no, look, I've got arrows in my back. God's against me right now. like that's what Job is saying. And then I like his snippy response in verse 24 of chapter 6. Teach me and I will hold my tongue. Cause me to understand wherein I have erred. He's like, it's like, oh, do I just need to learn how to hold my tongue better? Like, well, then teach me. Teach me. I'm all here. Gosh, that's sarcastic as it gets. And we continue. We'll just look at 25, 26, and 27. How forceful are right words, but what does your arguing prove? Do you intend to rebuke my words and my speeches of a desperate one, which are as wind? Like that's, my speeches are just like the wind that's going around. Yeah, it's like whatever. Yeah, yes, you overwhelm the fatherless and you undermine your friend. Like that, man. Like he went right for Eliphaz there. Yeah, like that. That's. Let's see. Did anyone else have anything? I have some in 7 too, but I want to give anyone. So chapter 7, I thought I have 9 underlined. He goes, as a cloud disappears and vanishes away, so he who goes down to the grave does not come back up. He shall never return to his house, nor shall his place know him anymore. Like this, it's kind of like he sounds like feels like he's forgotten about. Yeah.
He starts off by saying, my life is a breath.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the cosmos.
Yeah.
We exist for this much time. And
it's so much bigger. Yeah. Like that's.
Now its significance am I.
Yeah.
Flower fades. You hear that a lot. You read. There's a lot of places where that flower fades.
Oh yeah. The grass withers and the flower fades. Yeah. That's always on my tongue when I'm reading Gospels. Like that's Lee. You seem like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, 11. Yeah. Therefore, I will not restrain my mouth. I will speak the anguish. God's gone. I'm in this mess, and now I'm just going to tell you how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do I got to lose now?
Yeah. If it continues going, and I will complain in bitterness of my soul. like that. It's like, what do I have to lose? and then like, so, I talk a lot about like Leviathan and sea serpents and all that stuff. And look at verse 12. Like it's almost like a quoting of that. Like, am I a sea? Think about it, like, what does that mean? Or a sea serpent. He's talking about evil stuff there. Am I evil that you have to guard over me? Like that's.
I know it says the seas devoured you up.
Yeah.
Drowned, you were devoured.
Yeah, exactly. So it's terrifying.
It also brings a verse about not leaning to our own understanding.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that's. And that's the place that we end up getting. And I think the author here is really bringing us into the story for us to almost purge us of our understanding and to build up a new foundation. and to build that up. And I think that's kind of what's going on here, for us to feel that pain, to connect the pains that we've had with Job here. Let's see. And then verse 20 and 21, the last little bit of Job here. Have I sinned? What have I done to you, O watcher of men? Like, this is straight at God. Mm-hmm. Why have you set me as your targets, so that I'm a burden to myself? Why then do you not pardon my transgression and take away my iniquity? That's also quoting some stuff there. He's using it against, for now I will lie down in the dust, and you will seek me diligently, but I will no longer be. Like wild reaction there. Wild reaction. So, all right, let's continue on here. And let's see, let's get through the next section, which is chapter 10. Let's go and get through chapter 10. We're starting with 8. Here we go.
Then Bildad the Shuhite answered,
How long will you speak these things, and the words of your mouth be like a strong wind? Does God subvert judgment, or does the Almighty pervert justice? If your sons have sinned against him, he has cast them away for their transgression. If you would earnestly seek God and make your supplication to the Almighty, if you were pure and upright, surely now he would awake for you and prosper your rightful dwelling place. Though your beginning was small, yet your latter end would increase abundantly. For inquire, please, of the former age, and consider the things discovered by their fathers. For we were born yesterday and know nothing, because our days on earth are a shadow. Will they not teach you and tell you and utter words from their heart? Can the papyrus grow up without a marsh? Can the reeds flourish without water? While it is yet green and not cut down, it withers before any other plant. So are the paths of all who forget God, and the hope of the hypocrite shall perish, whose confidence shall be cut off, and whose trust is a spider's web. He leans on his house, but it does not stand. He holds it fast, but it does not endure. He grows green in the sun, and his branches spread out in his garden. His roots wrap around the rock heap and look for a place in the stones. If he is destroyed from his place, then it will deny him, saying, I have not seen you. Behold, this is the joy of his way, and out of the earth others will grow. Behold, God will not cast away the blameless, nor will he uphold the evildoers. He will yet fill your mouth with laughing, and your lips with rejoicing. Those who hate you will be clothed with shame, and the dwelling place of the wicked will come to nothing.
Then Job answered,
Truly, I know it is so, but how can a man be righteous before God? If one wished to contend with him, he could not answer him one time out of 1,000. God is wise in heart and mighty in strength. Who has hardened himself against him and prospered? He removes the mountains, and they do not know when he overturns them in his anger. He shakes the earth out of its place, and its pillars tremble. He commands the sun, and it does not rise. He seals off the stars. He alone spreads out the heavens and treads on the waves of the sea. He made the Bear, Orion, and the Pleiades, and the chambers of the south. He does great things past finding out, yes, wonders without number. If he goes by me, I do not see him. If he moves past, I do not perceive him. If he takes away, who can hinder him? Who can say to him, what are you doing? God will not withdraw his anger. Allies of the proud lie prostrate beneath him. How then can I answer him and choose my words to reason with him? For though I were righteous, I could not answer him. I would beg mercy of my judge. If I called and he answered me, I would not believe that he was listening to my voice. For he crushes me with a tempest and multiplies my wounds without cause. He will not allow me to catch my breath, but fills me with bitterness. If it is a matter of strength, indeed he is strong. And if of justice, who will appoint my day in court? Though I were righteous, my own mouth would condemn me. Though I were blameless, it would prove me perverse. I am blameless, yet I do not know myself. I despise my life. It is all one thing. Therefore I say, he destroys the blameless and the wicked. If the scourge slays suddenly, he laughs at the plight of the innocent. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covers the faces of its judges. If it is not he, who else could it be? Now my days are swifter than a runner. They flee away. They see no good. They pass by like swift ships, like an eagle swooping on its prey. If I say, I will forget my complaint, I will put off my sad face and wear a smile. I am afraid of all my sufferings. I know that you will not hold me innocent. If I am condemned, why then do I labor in vain? If I wash myself with snow water and cleanse my hands with soap, yet you will plunge me into the pit, and my own clothes will abhor me. For he is not a man as I am, that I may answer him, and that we should go to court together. Nor is there any mediator between us who may lay his hand on us both. Let him take his rod away from me, and do not let dread of him terrify me. Then I would speak and not fear him. But it is not so with me. My soul loathes my life. I will give free course to my complaint. I will speak in the bitterness of my soul. I will say to God, do not condemn me. Show me why you contend with me. Does it seem good to you that you should oppress? That you should despise the work of your hands and smile on the counsel of the wicked? Do you have eyes of flesh? Or do you see as man sees? Are your days like the days of a mortal man? Are your years like the days of a mighty man? That you should seek for my iniquity and search out my sin, although you know that I am not wicked, and there is no one who can deliver from your hand? Your hands have made me and fashioned me an intricate unity, yet you would destroy me. Remember, I pray, that you have made me like clay, and will you turn me into dust again? Did you not pour me out like milk and curdle me like cheese, clothe me with skin and flesh, and knit me together with bones and sinews? You have granted me life and favor, and your care has preserved my spirit. And these things you have hidden in your heart. I know that this was with you. If I sin, then you mark me and will not acquit me of my iniquity. If I am wicked, woe to me. Even if I am righteous, I cannot lift up my head. I am full of disgrace. See my misery. If my head is exalted, you hurt me like a fierce lion, and again you show yourself awesome against me. You renew your witnesses against me and increase your indignation toward me. Changes and war are ever with me. Why then have you brought me out of the womb? Oh, that I had perished, and no eye had seen me. I would have been as though I had not been. I would have been carried from the womb to the grave. Are not my days few? Cease. Leave me alone, that I may take a little comfort before I go to the place from which I shall not return, to the land of darkness and the shadow of death, a land as dark as darkness itself, as the shadow of death, without any order, where even the light is like darkness.
Oh man. oh man. Like yeah, like that's a whole lot of it. So we don't have a ton of time left, but I want to get through this stuff here. Did Bildad, Job's friend, anything stand out to anyone on that? It's kind of an evolution of what is that, Zophar, or not Zophar, Eliphaz kind of said to him. I think it's funny, he calls Job a windbag right there up front in verse 2. Like, how long will you speak these things, and the words of your mouth are like a strong wind? Right? Like this, there's nothing behind it there. And then he's like, does the Almighty pervert justice? And Job, his whole next thing is that, yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. And let's see. I also, let's see here. Verse 5, if you would earnestly seek God and make your supplication to the Almighty, if you were pure and upright, surely now he would awake for you and prosper in rightful dwelling place. Man, that's something you hear a lot. Like, geez, if only either me, myself, could be pure and reach out again, or you talk to someone else or something like that.
There are a lot of people that live in the if world.
Yeah. And yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Like, well, and that's funny you said the if world, because at the very end of the last 2 verses of chapter 8, it says, he will not yet fill your mouth with laughing and your lips with rejoicing. Those who hate you will be clothed with shame and all that stuff. And I wrote in the margin, if all this happens, if you do all these things in the if world, then you will get good things. Yeah, all that stuff. Well, that's the problem with that should, right? If we say we should do things, we end up shoulding all over the place.
I think that's a rainbow with a pot of gold.
Yeah. You don't want to should all over the place. So, and this is why I wanted to get through this. I know we're right at noon right now, but so in the sermon on Sunday, we're doing Mark chapter 6. That is what we're covering in the sermon is Herod feeding 5,000 and Jesus walking on water. The main commentary we're using for the sermon series made a huge deal and a connection between Job chapter 9 and the walking on water. Because he goes, it's odd, it's strange, and we're not dealing with it on Sunday, like in the way he dealt with it here. Time is already an issue on that sermon, so we can't be adding stuff to it. So it's especially bizarre things.
Unsealed and delivered, right?
Yes, this is a rambled for us.
Yeah. So he in that story in Mark. Jesus walks, he sees the disciples struggling at the oars, and then a weird thing is said about it. Does anyone remember what Jesus does? He goes and walks on water, and it says he has a goal. Do anyone remember what his goal is? His goal is just to walk by them.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember that first.
Weird.
Yeah,
Weird.
They see him.
Yeah, like, and they think it's a ghost. And
who's that out there?
Who's that out there?
Just crossing over to get off, beat them to the other side.
Yeah. It's such a weird, like he wanted to pass. Like it's such a weird thing. Yeah, it would have passed them by. So if we look at chapter 9, verse 8 and 9, let's see here. So, well, first off, verse 8 says that he alone spreads out the heavens, and he's talking about the stars and all these things, and treads on the waves of the sea. And now we remember, like in the creation narrative, God brings order, all these things. So we're in this kind of sea world. And then verse 11, if he goes by me, I do not see him. If he moves past, I do not perceive him. this commentary made a huge connection with that, and I thought I would mention it here. That this could be on Mark's mind as he's writing that Jesus was passing by him, connecting kind of how Job understands God, but he doesn't understand him. Like he's in the middle of like this. I need to understand all this, and like none of this makes sense, and all of that. And it's almost like the disciples kind of view Jesus in a very similar way. They kind of understand what's going on with him, but they completely missed the boat on him too. Lee, you're muted. Yeah,
I know. I'm just agreeing.
Okay, yeah. So, like, I thought it was interesting that he pointed that out, and I was like, "Oh, we're probably going to make that today." Like that's so. That's, and then you have Job. Like, would you say, "Oh, poor pitiful me," or something like that? Like, it's just a big pity party. Like, and that's a crass way. Not crass. It's mitigating what he's actually feeling there. But yeah, I mean, he's like, even like in verse 30, it's like, if I washed myself with the purest water he can get is snow water, if I could wash myself with that, you would just throw me into the mud pit again.
This one mentions a gospel musical called Arms Too Short to Box with God, and it was based on Job.
Oh, really?
Has anyone ever heard of that before? I've never heard of that.
Well, you probably heard another Job story, though. It's Bruce Almighty. Remember Bruce Almighty?
Yeah.
That's a Job story. Yeah. Because it's basically, the fun part of that movie is he gets to be God. And that's the whole point of Job is like, can you be God and all that stuff? And he can't do it. So like that's.
Yeah, there was a play years and years ago now, 15 years ago at college, where they actually did the story of Job, a gentleman who was righteous and all that good stuff. And then they showed his house, the scene changed and his house was all burned down.
Oh, yeah.
It was good. I enjoyed it.
That's good. That's good.
Makes you think.
Let's see. Does he say anything else here that's really of note? I don't think so. It's kind of more like, again, like 18. It's like, why have you brought me out of the womb? Oh, I marked that one because Ed, you did a little gesture on that one. So why have you brought me out of the womb? And oh, that I had perished and no eye had seen me. Just that. Like
I'm invisible.
Yeah. Like why is this happening? And
we all kind of feel invisible from time to time.
Yeah.
We come up with an idea and everybody says, "Oh, okay."
Does it make you feel like Job is looking for an arbitrator or a mediator or something?
Oh yeah. He definitely does.
Somewhere.
He definitely says that. Did I not mark any of those? I guess I didn't. Yeah,
3 on 9. He starts with that kind of.
Yeah, he's like, oh yeah. There's no one even to arbitrate or mediate between us. Like what? Who am I going to get to be on my side here? So So Job is going through a lot, and I think Ed's thing about invisibility is a big thing too, because his friends certainly aren't seeing him.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of what they said was true, but some of what they said was false.
Well, and that's
even his wife was still around.
Yeah.
Year that she was supporting.
Yeah. Well, and I think that invisibility is good, and also the speaking the scriptures. Like there's sometimes that it's a temptation just to Bible verse. You feel better? Like that's and it's all like his friends are saying correct things, but they're just completely wrong in how they're doing it. And that's why this stuff in life is so much more than just, well, this is the correct path. It meanders and moves around. A movie that kind of was striking to me, and I'll probably always remember this one quote in it. It's called Prometheus, and remember Alien from 1979, that Ridley Scott kind of movie Alien. It's one of the sequels to Alien, and they're going back and trying to go back to that world again, and they land in this one world, and they say this line. And I always thought this kind of struck me. They're like, "Oh, that looks like a landing strip," and someone's like, "Well, could that just be a natural formation?" And then they said, God doesn't design straight lines, or God doesn't use straight lines, or something like that. Yeah, and I was like, man, how many times do we say loudly about how God uses straight lines? And that's what all of his friends are telling him. Like, do this and you get this, Job.
Right.
And I think the end of Job here, we'll see that it's not about the straight lines; it's about something else. And so that's that.
It reminds you of The Journey, like in C.S. Lewis's.
The journey and all that. All
Not
that
the
stuff.
ending, but the journey.
Yeah. All the straight lines in The Great Divorce is down in the bad place.
Don't spoil it for me.
And, well, it's the beginning of it. It's the beginning.
That's up next after Mark.
Yeah. Well, good deal. Well, that's what we have for today. All right. Well, we'll say a prayer. Jesus, we thank you for your servant Job, and for the story that is written down for us here. Lord, help us to not seek straight answers that give us just pride in our own ability and our own knowledge, but Lord, make us humble servants that we could bring healing to all of our friends that are suffering, and Lord, even if we have to learn how we can suffer well. And Lord, please just continue to be with all those friends and family members that are going through something right now. Just continue to be with them and put your healing hands on them. In Jesus' name, amen. Excellent.
Amen.
Well, it's good seeing everybody. Thanks for joining
Good
us.
seeing you. Have a good week, everybody.
Take care.
We'll see you
Hey,
all.
warm up there.
Yeah, it's 38. It's warmer.
Thanks for coming, Evelyn.
Oh, you got a heat wave.
Yeah.